and welcome to Riverside Crafts this afternoon. We're going to be looking at making backgrounds and using stencils with pixie powders and bits to sort of see what we can do. One of the typical things that you probably have already thought about and done with the pixie powder is making backgrounds and then over stamping with a silhouette stamp, which gives you a beautiful effect. So you get this lovely pearlescence in the background, contrasting against your black mat of your stamping, which is really quite a nice way of doing something. Gives a totally different feeling. One of the other things that's quite nice to do is when you've done your background is to die cut, and your die cuts can look absolutely amazing because you're going to get colours that you wouldn't have thought about to use, which is really nice. It looks really good also on black cardstock, so you can make your black cardstock look like hammered metal depending on your colours of your distressing, my brain's going now, of pixie powders or pixie sparkles that you use. Another one is when you use them with your cutouts. So you get some beautiful dies now that will cut out an aperture for you, and then you can put your really pretty background behind them and it will elevate it into an absolutely stunning card. So this helps quite. If you are somebody who does paper cuts, then backgrounds for paper cuts as well, really nice. Something simple, doesn't need to be too much, can make it look quite dramatic, which is quite a nice thing to do. The other thing is all of your dies that you get will look stunning on a background of pixie powder. So cut them in black, lay them over where you think you want them, and play with them and have a look see, and you'll find that they actually look very different to what you think when you're playing with parts of your background. It doesn't have to have the whole of your background either, you can use bits of it. Okay, so that's the backgrounds. I'm just going to show you quickly how I make a messy background before I move on to the next bit that I do with pixie powders. But also, while I'm thinking about it, the paper that I'm using is a mixed media paper. It's quite a heavy paper, cardstock, which is quite nice, and it's very absorbent, and it doesn't pill too badly, which means I can do a lot of things on it. So this is the one I get at the moment. This is what they've got in Riverside Crafts, and I've been using, and it's really nice. So I'm quite pleased with that. So here we go. When I'm making a messy background, I like to put a water quitching roll down because I do get in a mess, and it just helps me not to have water running down my desk, which is something I've done in the past, and then suddenly realise why my jeans are a funky colour, because it's been dripping on from what I've been doing. Also, they will stain your skin, so if you're somebody who doesn't want lots of pretty colours all over your hands, be aware they will stain. Okay, I'm going to do a background using mixes of your pixie powders and pixie sparkles, just so that you can see that they really do work nicely together. This one I'm using at the moment is Beyond Blue. I'm going to use a red, which is Scarlet Mist from the Pixies, and I'm going to put that along as well. Just put a little bit in. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow in, just so it sort of gives me like sort of a like the sunsetty type feel. Just a little bit of yellow going on, not too much, but a little bit. And then I'm going to use a blue as well out of my pixie powder. So I've got one that's very glittery, and then the other ones are not quite so hard. Okay, so that's what I've done there. Push those out the way. Now I just use a water spritzer, nothing fancy, and it, depending on how much water you put down, will depend on how awake it goes. So you can just put a little bit down and not get, and that could be it. That's what we want to do. But the more you put down, the more the colours are going to work together and give you something that you hadn't really thought about before. So you're going to get some really different colours coming through, and some spectacular sort of backgrounds turning around as you go. Now I use a heat tool to set mine. It doesn't seem to affect the vibrancy at all, so I find that this works quite well for me. If I've got a particular piece and I'm noticing that my my colours aren't blending in, I will just use a brush and move them a bit so that they're coming in, and that, because it might be that I've just actually had quite a heavy bit of powder there, so it didn't actually move it when I thought it should, if that makes sense. So I can just put a little bit more in. There we go, that's it. And that's moved that colour now where I want it to. If I feel that I'm not actually moving it across the paper a bit, I can just play with it. So that's how I make a messy background. As soon as it's dry, I should just put another one in front of it so you can see what I mean. So one of the really good things is that if you've got your background done and you're not actually happy with it when you've done it, so say you were going to use it with your thing, you put it over and you're like, oh, that looks a bit splodgy, I'm not overly impressed with that, that's not going to work for me. You can, where you've got a lot of pigment still, there's no stop you from going back in and waking it up, so you've got more movement of colour again. It will quite happily move, and if you want to, you can mix it in a bit more with your brush and just bringing in more water where you've got those high levels of pigment if you want to, and then you can just add it in and dry it off again, so it's not fixed. So if you don't want, if you want to change it, you can add more colour in as well, which is quite a nice thing to do. Just turn that over like that a minute, there we go, that's better. Too much water on the top for it to dry quick. Now if you have lots and lots of questions, I will answer them all at the end for you, so if you leave them for me in your comments, then I will sit down after I've finished and diligently answer them all for you. So now I've got a different background to use with my, and you might think, oh, that's a bit, not sure, but as soon as you put your piece of work over the top of it, it changes it considerably, and you're suddenly like, oh, actually, no, I quite like that now, because it changes how it looks. So that's one way of doing it. One of the other things that I quite like to do, which is quite nice to do with your pixie powders, is if I'm using a vibrant colour again, so we'll go with an orange this time. We'll go with an orange and then a corally colour, I think. So I've got an orange now. Okay, and then I'm going to use a pixie sparkle, and this one's called Coral, so it's similar to the orange in a way, but it's a bit more red. Okay, but I don't have a blue pixie powder, say, but I've got a blue spritzer. Use that to go on, and then you can still add water to and activate your colours underneath, and it will work. So you don't have to just add in, oh, I can only use it with my water. I mean, look at the way that's going. That looks like fireworks exploding in here, and that's because, you know, you are using it and adding the colours in as you would like to go, which gives you some really different feels to what you're looking at. So you can, it doesn't matter necessarily if you haven't got lots and lots of colours. If you've got another colour in a spray, then you can sort of use that. Use your spritzers as well as you mix it all together. It works quite well. So this background was created with my, you watch me, I used my airless mister and then my bright orange and my coral in my pixie powders and my pixie sparkles. I've still got that stunning shimmer, as you can see, on that, but I've got a blue in different intensities as well, in different shades, because it's mixed in with my pixie powders. So that's given me a completely different look, which would have given me a fairly sort of general colour in it, so it's not limiting in that way. One of the other things you need to remember is that you can mix up your pixie powders and pixie sparkles into your own dye colour mix. So if you want to add some colours in, say you wanted to do, I don't know, I'm going to try this one for a minute. This is a teal. This is just a few base bits, and then we're going to go on to the more complicated bit in a minute. because I want to do a couple of base things first. So I've got a lot of sparkle on there, and I'm just going to wake it up with this. And as you can see, the teal is starting to come through. All right, so the teal, these dark colours here are what's come through from this. And I can go and put more on if I want to. I can still put more on and it will still be there when I wake it up. So let's put that one back a minute, and we'll add a different colour in, and we'll add this one. This is quite definite, a bit more bluey. Okay, so I'm going to add that in there. Now we know that we've just used the green. I don't really want to add more green in as such, so I'm going to try with a little bit of this one, which is a pinky tone. And that, and again, that's waking it up very differently, as you can see, but you're still keeping that green in the background. Now you can see why we need a wadded tissue paper, because it makes I get really messy. Okay, and depending on how much you move it to what you do, you can have it go very different. You can chase your colours around, you can have lacy effects turn up because of how your water's moved. So you've got quite a lot of different options with it. And this card takes a lot of water quite happily, as you can see. So it's not a problem there. Right, now I'm going to do it with a stencil and show you how to take a print from your stencil, and then we'll do the next bit. Right, so that's a quick background. Okay, leave that one there. Okie, and now I've got a couple of stencils here. They're all different ones by different. They're all out of my stash, so I've got a fair mix in here. The first one I'm going to use is this one. This is one of the new ones actually. This is a Creative Expressions one, which I quite liked, and I thought it was quite pretty. I'm going to show you what it looks like at the moment just by spraying it, so you can see quickly what it looks like. So come on, you. Oh no, I haven't got you going yet, have I? Go back to the blue one. I haven't activated the other one enough. Okay. So now you can see this is what that stencil is going to look like. Okay. So that's quite pretty. Put this on the top. Push down. Not a particularly brilliant print, but that's because I'm trying to get the off the liquid. Now I'm going to show you what happens when I do it with the pixie powders as well, because I get a better print. Okay, so I'll put those two to one side so you can see what I mean when I come to doing it with pixie powders in a moment. So I'll put that on there. I'm going to lay that on top. I'm going to use a blue again, because it's a nice bright blue, so it's quite a good blue, this one. I like this one. It's one of my favourite colours actually, because it splits really well. So I've got quite a bit of blue on it. Just going to put a little bit of red in. You noticed I shake them or I tap them. I don't squeeze them. So because I don't want lots of dust flying everywhere, I want it sort of in my space more, if that makes sense. I'm not going to fly everywhere. So I'm just going to spritz it quite nicely like so. Give it all a good spritz. I'm going to lift my stencil up. So that's my stencil as it was through the pixie powders. Now I'm going to make my print. Okay, lay that down. I'm going to push down on it quite definitely all over. Mucky gloves and all. Turn it over, peel it off, and you see the difference in what I'm getting as a print from before when I'm just using a spray. This is much more vibrant. Okay, and I can do that again. I'll get another one off that, so I can actually put it on again and get another one quite happily. So you know, you can pick it up and you can do all sorts of patterns on it quite happily. Just give it another spritz and wake up the ink that's still on it and put it on again and just play and give yourself a different sort of a background quite happily, so you don't waste your ink as such. Okay, so that's quite a nice way of using up your bits and bobs. But that is, the pixie powders give you a much more vibrant print when you've done it those two ways. Okay, right, I'm just going to clean the stencil off. Right, I'm going to show you what I'm going to show. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of what I'm going to do next, so that you can see. Okay, I've got some clean roll there. Right, these are probably what you saw in the advert. So these are like taking it as using it more like a stencil. I'm using specific elements of my stencils to make myself my topper. So here's one that I've done with using some golds and browns. Now this is the stencil that I used. So I've got, and it's on black card, so I've used pale silvers and pearls. And then this is the print I took afterwards. Now this had got other colours in it because I hadn't cleaned my stencil, but it looks quite nice. Okay, again the same here. I've used the stencil to make me my topper, and then I've used prints of the stencil to make my background paper. Again, here you go. So that's done those, and this is the background paper that I've created off of this card here. All right, so that helps you quite a lot. All right, so I'm going to show you how I did that. All right, first of all, I'm gonna do the leaves because it's easier. You can see that I've got strips of tape over my stencil because I don't want this bits showing. I'm only looking at having these three bits here showing on what I want. So I'm gonna cover my paper like so, so that my stencil is definitely quite down. Because I was doing it in autumn colours, I used some bronzings and golds to give me, and I was a bit more accurate with where I put my powder, so I took my time and made sure that I got it in my leaves, if that makes sense. So you can see I'm putting it in the leaf where I think I want it. Right, get another colour. I'm going to use a coppery colour this time. Right, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to be using the new one that just got in, which is molten gold. It's just Pixie Sparkles, and it's got a lot of very definitely shiny mica in it, which really helps to give that nice shimmer in what we're working on. So I used this one quite definitely. Now if you try and puff this and squeeze the bottle to get it out, you will end up covered in fine flakes of gold mica, and I do mean covered from head to toe. It's really floaty, so it sort of hangs in the air if you try and puff it up, and you will get, it'll look like you've put body glitter on. Right, so that's what, so I've given that some good colour. I'm going to spritz it to wake it up. Okay, now I'm going to be very careful when I take my stencil off because I don't want it to run. So I've took my stencil off quite carefully, and now I've got my 3 leaves. One of them slightly run, but it's not too bad because it'll look okay in what I'm doing. So I can dry that off. So that gives you 3 autumn leaves in beautiful gold tones, which looks stunning. And I'm no doubt that in your stashes you've probably got stencils that will do this for you, but the colours in the pixie powders and the pixie sparkles really do help to lift it for what it's doing, and you wouldn't believe how shimmery that gold is. So that's that one. I'm just going to do the feather one, but I don't when I do the feather, I need it to be stuck down because it's a very flimsy stencil, so I've got to have this actually taped in place because it goes for a walk. So I'm just going to tape this one down a little bit. Okay, so I've got some tape here. I'm just going to, this is just stencil tape, it's nothing fancy, it's just stencil tape. It's just stuff that is what I had at home, because I had lots of it in this particular colour. I have no idea why I have got it in black, it's just what colour I had available in my drawer, so that's what I'm using. But it's just a masking tape, so it's nothing particularly special. Now I'm going to use two different pixie powders for this one. I'm going to use a Pixie Sparkle in a purple, and I'm going to use my favourite Midnight Blue pixie powder because I think those two will work really well together. So I'm going to put my blue down first. Okay, and put my purple down. As you can see, this comes out very definitely. You're not going to lose any sleep over this one. It really does come up quite nicely. Okay, again, if you want to make sure your pixie powders are in where you want them, you can just dust them off the stencil if you want to and put them in place. It's not a problem. Okay, I'm just going to spritz it. Now I'm going to be quite light because if I spritz this too heavy, it's going to run and I'm going to lose what I want to see. That makes sense. So I'm just doing a light spritzing. Okay, I'm quickly going to remove my stencil before it starts to be too much of a problem. Up we come on, off. Thank you. There we go. One stencil and one runny feather. Overcooked the pudding, but it would still look stunning when it's dry because it will have that really nice shape to it. So I'll just dry it off so you can see. So look at that beautiful feather now. That is stunning. Make a fantastic topper for a card. Okay. Now, I want to use up the ink that's left on here. So I'm just giving it a really good spritz so it's nice and wet. And I'm going to go on it. And I'm going to lift up. I'm going to go down the other side and lift up. And what I'm getting is this really nice watery effect. It's sort of like a watercolour, sort of a mirage-y type feel of the feather. Nothing too heavy, which is quite nice. I'm just going to dry that so you can see it a bit better without the runs in it. Right, there we go. So that's my background that I've just created using what was left on the feather, and you can still see elements of that feather on both sides, but you've got this really nice genteel sort of watercolour background which would look lovely behind anything you were using as a topper. Right, just going to clean that off a minute. Let's get my tissue back. Okay, Okay, so that's done that bit. I'm just going to show you it on black card again. Give me a second. I didn't get my black card out in my usual ordinary self. Now this is just bog standard black card. It's nothing fancy. It's nothing amazing from, it's not sort of mixed media black card or watercolour card. It's just bog standard black card. Okay. So I'm going to put a range of colours on it so you can see that it doesn't, that all of the pixie powders and pixie sparkles show up really well on black card. So, and it gives you a very different feel. Look at this, look at the shine in that as it comes out. And this one is the intense, the Beyond Blue, and it is very blue. Okay, I'm just going to put some silver down. Okay, and I'm going to put some lime on here, I think, a little bit of lime. There we go, right, that'll do for now, otherwise we're going to end too much muddy. Okay, I want you to see how, even on the black card, it doesn't, these colours come up beautifully and show up stunningly. They come completely alive on black card as well. So it's not, you're not limiting what you can do. You can really play with it. Okay, and I hope that helps with some ideas for you to have a play at. It's literally, you can do whatever you like with them. You can stick them into some water and make them into a spray. You can mix them with glycerin and blend them in. One of the things I haven't done tonight, which actually went to the afternoon, which I often do, is I actually will pull in the ink off the side of what I've been using. So I'll show you that quickly before we go, just so you know what I mean. Put a little piece of card down. Let's put that over there to dry. I want another stencil. Where are we? Let's find a stencil that's easy to use. What ones have I got left? Oh, this one will do it. Right. I'm just going to sprinkle some colour onto here quickly. Just onto my stencil. There's some colour on my stencil. Right. Just going to wake it up. Okay. So I've got colour on my stencil. So using a foam pad, I can just pull that in and rub that onto what I'm working on and take it wherever I want it to go and use it as a background paint quite happily. So I wouldn't waste, I can use it in that manner and it not be wasted, so it can still be just dragged through what you're using, so you don't have to have it to come all in one go. One of the nice things to do when you've done that though is, so you've got a background pattern coming in, is to actually overlay it with something else. So put some more, a different one on top of it, and give it a bit more of a, where's the lime, this one, and put some more colour behind, in front of it, and just wake it up, and it just comes up really well, and you get a different sort of feel for what you've just done. And what you'll find is even what you've just done will move as well. So you, as the water is added, you'll move what you've already done previously, and you'll get yourself a different type of feel. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope you found it interesting. If there's anything that you need to know you're not sure about that I've used tonight or whatever, if it's not being answered by the lovely Caroline now, I can answer it when I've just finished in a minute. So thanks for watching again from Riverside Crafts, and we shall see you again next Friday. Please enjoy watching. Thanks.